Hey guys. So this will be another programming session. My plan is we'll do graphical user interfaces in Rust again, this time with Egui, which is the immediate mode graphical user interface library for Rust. Something like DRM GUI, but for Rust. I'm pretty excited about this. A couple of coding sessions ago, I took a look at Slint. Sorry, Iced, actually. I still haven't taken a look at Slint. And I was very impressed. Iced is retained mode graphical user interface library that's inspired by the Elm architecture. It's very clean. I liked the syntax a lot and how native it was to Rust. Basically, all of the components were simple functions, and state management was done with a simple struct and an update function with some messages. Now, I'm even more excited for Egui as it's immediate mode, and I really like immediate mode graphical user interface kits because they make the state management problem almost disappears. And that is such a huge deal. I mean, if you do user interfaces, you know that the majority of UI related bugs are state management. And nowadays, immediate mode is something you can actually run on every modern hardware, especially for normal to medium size, small to medium applications are even more performant in many cases in immediate mode than retained mode. Now, first of all, let me just talk a little bit about immediate mode. Retained versus immediate mode graphical user interfaces. In a nutshell, the difference between these two is that immediate mode interfaces are redrawn, at least in theory, every frame. Sort of like a game where you have state, whatever the state is, every tick, every frame, you just redraw the entire UI. And this makes, yes, this does consume CPU cycles for drawing, CPU or GPU cycles, whatever. But the upside to that is you don't manage two states. Because with retained mode, where the UI is drawn and then redrawn when you tell it to, and that telling it to is when it should synchronize the state. What happens is that you have two clones of your state that you have to keep in sync. And this is where all of the state management architectures come from, Redux and React and everything on the web that you've seen. All of the libraries like Microsoft View Model bindings and everything in the UI space. Since then, for state management, is trying to solve this problem in basically keeping these two states in sync. What is seen on the screen by the user and what the actual state is in the code, structures, or whatever you have, structs, classes, doesn't matter. And immediate mode is another approach to user interfaces that just redraws everything at every frame. And this way, the state is always represented immediately. And you might think that's wasteful, but the reality is, right here, even in Egui, if you take a look, we have what is called reactive and continuous. And even immediate mode graphical user interface libraries don't exactly redraw everything on every frame. They have some optimizations. And here we have reactive mode by default, which means it's running UI code and redrawing when there's user input or animations. So it's smart about it. It's not that wasteful. And if I go to continuous mode, it's repainting the UI each frame. Now, this is running in a browser. That's because Egui can also be compiled to WebAssembly and rendered in the web. And that's not bad at all, if that's your thing. But I am primarily aiming to make an app for basically desktop operating systems, Windows, Mac, Linux. And it will be cross-platform as Egui supports different renderers. Now, I tried to introduce that a little bit. If you want to learn more about immediate mode graphical user interfaces, they come from Casey Muratori, by the way, and you can read his article and video actually he has on that. He was talking about this topic in 2005. I think he introduced the idea in sort of an email list back then. And since then, there have been a couple of projects that are quite successful about building immediate mode graphical user interfaces, like Dear I'm GUI, which is probably one of the biggest libraries. And you see it's used in game development extensively, like a lot of game user interfaces, game engine user interfaces, and or game development debugging tools are done with DRM GUI, which is a C++ immediate mode graphical user interface library. And these are, like Egui, are usually quite lean, and they can be rendered with a couple of with different renderers. So they're also cross-platform and very performant and simple to actually write code in that is reliable because they are immediate mode and you have a single state tree. So that's amazing. I really like that. As I said, that's at the expense of redrawing more, but managing state less, which isn't necessarily worse in terms of performance. It depends. As the answer. It depends on the application and how you actually implement it. But I really like it these days. And considering the web user interface apps that are done for the desktop, um, I don't know why we would even be talking about performance impact of immediate mode given its advantages. Like compared to web, it will be much faster in any possible scenario. Now, Egui, I mean, I haven't done a lot. I basically just checked out the demos a little, read a little bit about it, but not a lot, to be honest. It looks quite lean and minimal. They don't have a very good like web page and presence. Their GitHub is like the primary homepage from which you can go through and export documentation and demos. Like this is the main homepage and it's not bad. They have a lot of demos, which are very useful. And you can see the source code for each one of these. They have frames and windows and different widgets here. It's very rich in terms of prebuilt widgets and functionality. I mean, that's, you cannot fault that. We have like painting widgets and all sorts of interesting pre-built demos, which will be extremely useful if you want to build something like I am. Because you can just click source code on each one of these and it takes you to the GitHub example, which is actually implementing it and just copy code. And that's arguably even better than a formal documentation. They don't have very sophisticated documentation as far as I can see. You have the Rust documentation, which is enough. It's actually quite well documented, as I can see now. And of course, they'll have all modules and functions, which should be helpful. Now, my ambition is to actually start building something real, not just mess around. Let me just close a couple of things. So I'm working on this Rust application utility that optimizes SVGs. I'm writing it from scratch currently. And at this point, it does have some of the features which are actually usable. It's still not very stable and in development. But I was thinking, if I'm doing a graphical user interface and experimenting with the library, we might as well try to implement something real. So this is a design we can aim towards. Realistically, I don't have the time to implement the whole thing today, but it's something I can work towards so that we have like at least a goal. And I mean, this will be the desktop application front end for my, let me just open it, my utility right here, eSVG, which you can check out, and it's an open source SVG optimizer with a little bit of an interesting concept behind it. It does this what I call competitive transformer optimization. It sounds fancy, but it isn't. It essentially runs different plugins, checks if the plugin actually optimized the SVG in terms of size, And if it did, it takes the output of the plugin and applies it. And this way, theoretically, I think I'll be able to output the most efficient SVG on each use case with the appropriate plugins. And I have a couple of plugins here that are running to optimize colors, combine shapes, apply transformations. And these are just, they use the XML elements and apply some changes to them. It's a native Rust thing, and it makes sense to make the graphical user interface for it that the users will use, which will be developers, in Rust. And immediate mode would be great for this. Now, the good thing is, looking at the GUI, I can already see that we have a couple of prebuilt widgets like, let me see. We had a switch, yeah, or that's a custom widget. But yeah, there's a switch demo here. We also have this frame, which we can resize. Let me see where it was actually. It was somewhere in the other demos. Was it frame? Nope. We had this panels maybe? Yeah. So we have the panel capability. And I think we have two panels here, a top bar and a status bar, a header bar and a status bar, or title bar, however you want to call it. And each one of these will be a panel, and these two will be resizable, of course, with some minimum size. We have buttons, and most importantly, we have the native capability to render vector graphics. There's an image crate, image module, sorry. There's an image module. Let me go to the documentation. That can render a vector image. It supports different image loaders, and we have SVGs here, which will be extremely useful because with it, I can actually render my canvas. And yeah, basically, we have the functionality to open a file from the operating system, save the file, some settings which will appear in some model window, these switches to enable, disable different plugins, and the status bar showing you how much it's optimized. Here will display whether it's idle, ready, or it's loading something. I understand that we might need to do multi-threading because while we're optimizing the SVGs, we don't necessarily want to block the user interface. But honestly, that's integrating this actual application with the eSVG or my eSVG plugin to actually do work is probably a stretch for this video. If we're able to build a large portion of this UI, I would be happy. But even if we don't build everything, my point is to explore the GUI library, and having something to aim for is better than just drawing some random widgets on the screen. Okay, enough fluff. Let's start. To start, there was a template. First of all, Egui can be used anywhere where you can draw texture triangles. That's what it says. You can easily integrate it into your game engine of choice. That's great. And it has an Eframe framework, which supports writing apps for web, Linux, Mac, Windows, and Android. Okay. It does not support iOS. Video tutorial examples. I think there was a template which I can use. Yeah, Eframe template. So I'll clone this and start from it. And we'll check out the getting started. Now, I will run the app on native Windows and develop on WSL. Because I want the native Windows window, not the WSL graphical app, because it will apply scaling. Most likely we can test that as well. So I'll go to the C drive source, and here I will clone the template. Okay, let me see now. We have the Eframe template. I will immediately rename that actually. Let's rename it to eSVG GUI. Okay, I'll start Tmux, Sessionizer. I'll zoom in a bit so that you can actually see well. And I'll start new vim. Let me just update my plugins. And okay, we're good to go on that front. Here I can start multiple terminals, but I don't expect I'll need a lot of terminals because I'll be running the app on Windows, so I need PowerShell in another tab. Let me open that. We'll go to C drive, source, and eSVG. I have the Rust 2 chain, so I should just be able to cargo run this app. Let's see if we can run it immediately. It should start. I don't even know what this demo template is, but I'm guessing it will load something, some kind of window. My impression is that it has only 187 dependencies, and some of them are shared with something like, how's it called? Iced, like default renderers, but we'll see. What I'm also interested in is we need to modify in package name in cargo. We need to change our default app struct. We have an index HTML file if we want to do WebAssembly, which I'm not sure if I want to do, honestly. But if I'm shipping like my app, realistically, if I want to ship my app, why not offer it on the web as well? I'm guessing because of input output, I'll need to use a crate for Windows, Mac, cross-platform file management, which I don't want to integrate with WebAssembly. Plus, I don't want to branch my code into this if WASM target this, iOS native this. And realistically, my goal was to ship this as a desktop app, not as a web application. If I want to do that, I can write a web app separately. But it's good that you have that ability. Like in many cases, it makes sense to ship your app as a WebAssembly target. Okay, let me see. Did it build? It did. Uh, yeah, it opened right here. So first impressions, scaling works. That's great. Can I zoom? I can. Wow, that's pretty cool. I love that. Also want to check out Task Manager. We're running in debug, and yeah, it's very. It's not optimal at all. But I just want to see the resource usage of this app, and it doesn't even appear as a foreground process. Will it appear now? Maybe it doesn't appear as the foreground process because I'm running it through the Rust debugging option. It's with a different name. Whatever. Um, Here it shows the theming functionality, or you can go with system. We have some app with some state that works amazing, if I might add. It's very smooth and responsive. And we have a sample menu bar here. Have links, some status text. Whoops. We even have an icon and a native Windows Win32 window. If I quit, great. It's not bad. How much is the? Let me build. Was it release to build a release target? I think so. I want to see the executable size of this demo app because these are important things to me. Here we have target debug. So the debug executable is 8 megabytes, which is not bad at all. The release will be even smaller. And I don't know what this template includes. It might be able to make this a lot leaner. Let's see. All right. Yeah, the release executable is 6 megabytes. It's perfectly fine. And if I run that now, I should probably be able to see it in Task Manager this time. Yeah, here it is. 36 megabytes of memory, basically no CPU usage at idle. If I click around, however, it will start re-rendering and we'll see some CPU usage, but it's very well under control, as you can see. No issues whatsoever. You get like 10%, but on idle, it doesn't redraw because by default, it's in this reactive mode or whatever it was called. So it would only redraw if there's an animation or if I like interact with it, like hovering, like this. Okay, that's pretty impressive in terms of performance. Like, look at Chromium. I mean, there are people that ship apps on top of that. So immediate mode is not the performance issue here. At least in terms of memory, it will be very efficient. Like CPU usage wise, you will get some, and GPU usage even. Okay, let's look at the code now. I'm not expecting hot reload features or something like that. Realistically, I don't think we will have that. Still, that's really not a problem. Let's follow the getting started first and go to Cargo Tomo. Have licenses here and whatnot. Targets. Like, let's change package name to eSVG GUI. I will need to change that as well to me. Okay. Yeah, these are not that important. I can change the metadata later. Main. Yeah, let's check out main. I want to check it out either way. We have lib, app, and main. In main, okay, it's about what I expect. So here's what I mean by WebAssembly. Look at that. We have two main functions. We started with branching from the beginning. That's why I don't like WebAssembly. Like, what do you mean we're sharing? I mean, maybe I shouldn't blame WebAssembly in general, but it's really hard to create a cross-platform user interface, especially with windowing interactions that's also cross-platform with WebAssembly, because the web is just such a different target. And most systems that I've seen always have this branching everywhere. If it's running natively, if it's WebAssembly. And that's even in things like React Native. Like, it's just when you target the web, you get that, which is a problem. So I will not target the web. That's my decision. I don't know if I'll delete that immediately. Probably not right now. I want to first inspect because I'm not aware what's happening, but it seems quite standard. So that's what we care about when compiling natively. And we have this main function that returns an iframe result. We have logger and then options and iframe run native. Iframe template. I'll change that. We pass these options to the run command and we have a pointer to what? We pass a pointer to, new pointer with a result of new pointer to the app that is template app or whatever. So this app I need to rename. Let me. Okay, sorry, I got something wrong. How would I name that? Let's go with main window, actually. Or no. Yeah, let's go with main window. I think that's fine. Template app. Yeah, for this, for now, I need to keep WebAssembly. in sync, I'll remove it. That will be one of the first things I'll do. I don't know if main window is a good naming convention in this case, but let's see. I need to check what it is. And here in WebAssembly, I won't pay too much attention because the native options are more important and interesting. I have options for the, I guess, Eframe, which will be the main window and basically the app runtime. I have a viewport that I'm building with inner size. Okay, 1280 by 720. Minimum inner size, let's say 960 or something like 800 by 400. And icon. I'll keep the icon. It's not bad at all. And then we have default settings, which I guess I imported some. Actually, where are the imports? Or we have... That's very interesting. I just now noticed we don't have any use. Maybe this configure attributes. I don't think so. That's very interesting. So these are global. It's unusual for a Rust app. You usually have to import everything that you use. But yeah, that's not a big deal. I mean, this syntax is about what I expect, quite simple, and I like it. Now let's go to the actual app. We derive the serialize, so we can persist app state on shutdown. Okay. I'm guessing this is for JSON, Saturday, I believe. We have this struct template app. I'll call it main window. I mean, let's call this app. I don't want to... The main struct app. So we have state here. This is how you opt out of serialization of a field. Okay, so this is serializes it as JSON so that it can save it on shutdown. I'm not really interested in saving on shutdown, but whatever. Then we implement default values. Pretty good syntax and standard stuff. And then we implement code once before the first frame, new. Okay. And this is where you can customize the look and feel of Egui using context set visuals, context set fonts. That's useful. So this function is very useful because it's called once at init. And what's the previous app state? There you go. Storage. And where is that storage coming from? CC context or whatever. Creation context. Okay. Enable the persistence feature. So that includes some persistent storage capabilities. That's impressive. That's cool. It's not a bad thing that they include these features, and you can opt out of them. And this shows how you can execute code before first frame. That's very useful. And it gives some tips. And then we implement Eframe app for our app struct. Let's, by the way, change all of these. There's one more. So, code by the framework to save state before shutdown. Okay, this saves the state. So it's this sorry, let me navigate. So it's this internal function that's called by the persistence module or whatever. And that's the big thing, update. This is code each time the UI needs repainting, which may be many times per second. So performance-wise, you have to consider that here you might have performance issues if you do things which are not drawing. You should only draw user interface here, not do some calculations or something. What do we have here? Put your widgets into a side panel, top, bottom panel, central panel, window, or area. Okay, for inspiration and more examples. And this is how we build user interfaces here. We have top, bottom panel, which is, I don't know what. For a menu bar. Okay, so that is basically the menu bar panel we have on the top. And then we create a new menu bar. So how does this work? We basically have some functions here that are chained. In this case, we use the show function. Everything has this context, which it uses for, I don't know what, the whole context, I guess. Egui context, yeah. And we have, yeah, in this case, it can send viewport commands. All right. And we basically render a menu bar with a menu button. That's a function. Okay. Let me see something more standard, because this is somewhat, not that it's not standard, but it's a menu bar. I want to see basic things. Here we have a central panel. And here we have a heading. Yeah, basically we have functions as building blocks. And they are they're composed into layouts. We have this UI add function. It's a little bit confusing, because on one hand we have UI dot widgets, and then we have UI add, and then you pass a struct. So I'm guessing these are alternative syntax. I think all of the widgets will be structs, but items like heading have also these shorthand functions for syntactic sugar, I would guess. And separator, we have whatever that is, GitHub link file, macro. Wow. With layout, bottom up, align left. Yeah, all that is fine, by the way. And here we have, look, this is sort of like a component. Because you have immediate mode, a component is just procedural code that you execute. I mean, that's what I like about immediate mode graphical user interfaces. They simplify a lot. Especially for smaller apps. Like, many problems just disappear. Okay. So how do we start? Let's start by removing, first of all, lip. Okay, that's cool. Let's remove the WebAssembly stuff from here and see if everything will compile correctly after that. So native targets. That's hides console window on Windows in release. That's great. What's that? Walk to STG. Yeah, that comment is not that useful. By the way, here's some differences between this and ImGUI. Like in ImGUI, you don't have Eframe or native windowing cross-platform system. You draw windows with glue or whatever, or with the Windows API. And all of these things related to setup are a lot of code and research, actually. They're not straightforward. Like, here they are. Now, the JSON stuff, I don't need. I don't want to persist anything here. So I'll just leave state like this. On the default, I will leave. That's useful. These comments are useful for now. I'll leave them. Here, we don't need the persistent storage, we just do the default. The default like this. And I'll add a comment. That's not a comment. By the way, that's interesting. Yeah, that's fine. So the default is code. And here in the app, we don't need to implement that save function. The update stays the same. And that component I'll leave for now. So what I changed is remove the WebAssembly target for now. By the way, let me see, what do we have here? That index HTML we don't need anymore. That's for the assembly target, so I can delete it. Rust 2 chain. For all the Rust up before Tomo support. I don't see why that is needed. This is for what, NixOS? I'm not sure why I would need that. Field template. These are scripts to help you get started, but I don't see it. The script runs various CI-like checks in a convenient way. Check, cargo check, format. Don't need that. Trunk, file hash. I don't even know what that is, but I'll leave it. I'll leave the README as it is for now. License MIT or whatever. Let's just remove the licenses for now. What is that? Cargo Tomo. Okay, Rust version. All that is okay. Metadata for docs, targets. Dependencies, Egui, Eframe, default features false. Features, access kit, compatible with screen readers, adds a lot of dependencies. Well, what can you do? Default fonts, we might remove that at some point. Use the GUI rendering backend, alternative WGPU. I don't see a problem with that rendering backend. Restoring app state, we don't need that. Linux, X11. Oh well, whatever. Like, yeah, let's keep them for now. Walk is another dependency. Here we have Saturday. No persistent needed. Native, target, WASM. If the target is not that, yeah, I'll have that. Thank you. I don't need all of that. Profile release, fast and small WASM. I don't see why I care about that, but let's leave it for now. Optimize all dependencies, even in debug builds. Okay. And what is that? If you want to use bleeding edge version of Egui in Eframe, just check out the branches. Okay. Lints. Here we have some linter config, which I will not check out. Let's not waste any more time on these configs. I'll try to compile now with the WebAssembly target removed. Let me zoom in here. Let's build. Removed a little bit of dependencies. We get a lot of things by default. With Eframe, the window handling is great. As far as I understand, I can easily have custom windows decorations and title bars out of the box with some small changes to the code. Accessibility out of the box, these zoom in, zoom out features also I really liked. So let's see. While the build finishes, I'll immediately go into my source and check out if we can start changing some of the settings. So I already changed a lot of things. I won't change the icon yet. All of the settings here are fine and I'm good with them. I might need to change that. So the build will probably fail now, but that's okay. Yeah. Build again. Eframe template. There we go. So we need to name that eSVG GUI. Here in the lib, let's build again. And the build is successful. Let's run once more. And here is our app. Pretty cool. I'm just checking out how responsive the UI is when I resize. And it's great. Like, definitely can keep 60 frames per second, which is, I mean, above and beyond what is expected from UI. Let me run again to see the default size. That's great. Okay, let's not go to app and start implementing some specifics based on the design. First of all, let me organize my workspace a bit. Like, I'll have this as the third desktop, I'll have the design as the second, and documentation as the first one. Here I'll have docs, examples, everything. I need essentially the examples and the documentation right here. That should be enough for now. And my plan is to start with these two panels. The image, the canvas essentially with the SVG and the available optimizations switches. So the state we have is the plugins used. So a couple of booleans. I will create a boolean state value for each one of these. I'm sorry. Basically, what I need to have is how were the plugins called? Remove unnecessary like this with the plugin name. Convert shapes to paths. Another bool. Then we have optimize colors. Another boolean. Convert inline CSS to attributes. They're a little bit long, but I'm not concerned with that. Readability is more important. Combine paths and apply transforms. So a state variable for each plugin. And let's implement the defaults for them. And the defaults will be all are true. I mean, absolutely. Okay. Next up, here in the first frame, we will just start with the default. Nothing to change here. Now for the panels, let me run again to, actually, let me just open to remind myself. So for now, I will leave the top bar as it is. We will use it. I'll just change it a bit. Let's leave it for now. As it is, don't change it. What about the bottom bar? So this powered by Egui, this will become the status bar later. So I'll leave that as well. And essentially our work will be here in that central panel. And in it, I will remove a lot of things, but also keep some things. For now, I will start with this panel right here, available optimizations. And that will be a heading. And after it, this horizontal layout, this horizontal layout is something I have to probably use. Here we have a label and a text edit button. Okay, let me check if we have a native switch. I have a switch here. Button with image. Checkbox. I could use a checkbox for now. So we have UI checkbox. How do I use it? Shows a checkbox. Checked. So it has self, checked, and atoms. Whatever atoms is. I don't know yet. I'm guessing we'll learn that at some point. Let's go right here. So we'll have UI check. By the way, why did Copilot recommend passing this? Ah, okay. That's strange. The documentation didn't say that. Let me see. Self. Checked. Mutable Boolean. And atoms, okay. Let me see, what are these supposed to be? I don't know, but this seems correct, to be honest, in terms of usage. Mutable self, remove unnecessary attributes. And then a label. And I'll call that remove unnecessary attributes. Okay, so either we remove that increment button, separators, and everything. Yeah. Okay, great. Let's run. Missing apply transforms. In the defaults. Okay. So, wait, it's still missing? Did I not save? Probably. Okay, we have some unused items. That's expected. Let's run. So that's good. So the checkbox includes a label out of the box, which I don't need. Because later this checkbox will not be a checkbox. Have to remember that. It will be a switch, which I might have to build as a custom widget, and it could include a label, but for now we have a horizontal item. So these atoms needs to be something, apparently. We don't get the accessibility. That's an issue. So I'll probably keep it like this for now, and later the switch has to include that accessibility part, where if you click an actual label, of course it should toggle. Okay. Of course, this is very far from the design, but that's how we'll start. And this actually modifies the state. It represents the state. So there's no state synchronization. That's the good thing about immediate mode. If it works in the UI, we've synchronized state correctly. That's pretty great. Now, let me add more of these. Although that's not that important, I'll add one for each. It should be quite simple. Yeah, actually, this is a great use case for some AI agent. Let's try to prompt Avanti for that. Add one of these for each Boolean state attribute. Okay. Let's see if it will. UI horizontal. Yeah, it absolutely doesn't need UI horizontal here. But it understood me correctly and applied all of the changes. Okay. Of course, it won't hot reload in any case. So let me rebuild, and we have our checkboxes checked by default. Great. Now, next step will be to have a layout of some sort. First of all, let's have spacings between these items. Here in Figma, the layout is a stack layout, vertical layout with 12 pixel spacing between items. I want custom fonts and stuff, but that's for later. For now, the layout is more important, and that's what I'll focus on. I'm interested, do we have something like vertical, for example? No. So we have horizontal. I am in Eframe. That's a problem. Let's go to Egui. There we go. Horizontal. Now, elements will be centered on the y-axis, adjusted up and down to lie in the center of the horizontal layout. So use horizontal top instead. Okay. The same as horizontal. Fine. The initial height is style spacing in the right size Y. Centering is almost always what you want if you're planning to mix widgets or use different types of texts. Yeah, fine. Okay, let's use that. So essentially, here I'll have a single item, UI horizontal. Okay. Let me move this up. So how do I add spacing here? UI style spacing. Well, I don't see how that would work. I could check out the examples. That might help me. I think it was Egui RS. Yeah. So here we should have items with spacing somewhere. Where would that be? Um, I'm guessing columns, rows have a whole grid. Okay. I just want to see spacing and how to apply it. The alternative is, if I understand horizontal more, go into it. Add contents. Well, maybe I should check out the struct or whatever it returns. Horizontal widgets, container. I was expecting there to be a layout. Wait. Function horizontal returns inner response of what exactly? Okay, whatever. On hover text. Mm-hmm. I mean that inner response is returns a response. We have clicked and some events hovered, whatever. Good. Um, I think I would like to know. Let's see if AI can help us analyze this. I'm interested in. Let me go up the sidebar. This is Egui's horizontal layout. How can I add spacing? Oh, okay. There is a function. Yeah. Well, LLMs are good at in parameters. I mean, if that works, though, let's check. It doesn't complain. Okay. By the way, I don't want horizontal. I want vertical. I almost forgot that. And I don't know if I even need that vertical layout, given that it seems to be by default in this central panel. I thought I need a vertical layout to actually create spacing with some gap property, space property, but that doesn't seem to be necessary. I can just say add space 12 and space that a couple of times between the items. It's quite simple. I love simple things sometimes, especially in cases like this. When you expect extremely sophisticated layout systems, at the end of the day, you get something simple and nice. Okay. Heading label. How do I add a styled label heading? Let's see. Which text? Mm-hmm. Uppercase. I have to just uppercase. Oh yeah, of course I can uppercase the string. Come on. Uh, okay. So this can become UI label. Let's indent it properly. Available optimizations. I'll do that so that it's. Well, I can also just. Let's keep it simple. Size 18. I mean, here we're at the default size, so I can remove that. Strong is not particularly interesting in my opinion. I want weight, rich text, strong, extra strong text, code, weak. I mean, do we have weight? No. Just strong. Okay. I would like to control the font weight here. Stronger cover, fainter cover. Strike through, italics, font height. I mean, I can just change the font. That's stronger in this case. Yeah. Exactly. So I don't need strong in any way. I'll remove that. Cover. Okay, let's leave it for now. And this should be the label itself. Right now it's not closed. Yeah, exactly. Let me see. Like this. Okay, let's run and see our rich text. We have an error. I need to use that one. Okay, that is some progress, admittedly. What can cover be? I was cover over text cover will be a switch will be replaced by the widget that paints the text. I'll remove it and set some default covers for the whole thing. Later it will be leaner. So just, I guess I don't even need to have anything special here, just available. No, I need size. I need size. That's, I need size and I had it right here. I'll, by the way, move my LLM window in the documentation because it seems to be very useful. And I can have sizes float right here. And this was a little bit smaller than. Let's recompile and check it out. Okay, good. Now let's do the layout. We need 2 panels here. And we had that in the demo. Let's see where it was. Let me close some things here. Like the widget gallery, the animations. We had what? Panels. Right panel, central panel. Left panel, side panel, right panel. Okay. So it supports some paneling by default. I'm trying to understand what's happening. Top, bottom panel, and side panels. And central panel. Okay. So I already have some of these. I currently have a central panel and a top panel. Let me remove that so that my central panel is quite clear of everything. And I will create a new panel that is side panel, right side panel. And that should be, say, here, syntactically speaking. I'm missing something. Oh no, it's width range, default width, resizable. Oh, that's great. It even has a name. So the width range, here the width is 284. So let's have it at like 290. The width range will be, let's say, Let's try 250 to like 300. If that would, not 300, but let's do 480. Just to see how it works. Vertical centered, show inside. So this is basically the items inside. I will use that layout and show my label at the top like it is right here. Actually, let's run. We have a worm ipsum function they have a lot implemented here. Ah, okay, this is only in the demo. Let's remove it and copy that. This is my spacing stuff essentially, and checkboxes in the scroll area. We want that to be a scroll area for sure. If the user has a smaller screen real estate in terms of height, you should be able to access all controls. And here, I'll put the label. So now we have a side panel that has the same content as the central panel, but that's normal. What's wrong? Cannot find value UI in this scope. Why is that? Oh, that is because shouldn't I use context here? Like, I can check the other function as well, but let me build again like this. No. Okay. Let me check the demo again. Why does it expect UI? Is it inside of a UI here? So this entire thing is a UI function, and the update goal is right here. No, sorry. View for panels. Okay, that's really not a problem. Here, all of the panels have similar similar syntax, and I already have a panel here. I can just use show, I'm guessing, like I do here, and pass context. Can I? Can I? Indeed, I can. Okay. And we have some progress. Here we go. We have a resizable sidebar. And 400 is even a lot. I think, I don't know. Right now we don't have the real switches, so 400 might be okay if you want. I mean, why would we decide? Whatever the user wants, you have a larger sidebar, if he so desires. And look, the state is synchronized. Okay, so the central panel doesn't need this, it needs a canvas. And that is quite straightforward. I just remove everything, leave nothing here, and run. All right. Well, what I want to check, available optimizations right now is a little bit broken. I want it vertically centered. No, I don't want it vertically centered. And I would like it to have some space. Definitely. I mean, I'm not currently focusing on some style specifics, as you can see. I want to check out if I can build the fundamentals with the UI library, but it's not bad at all. The user interface, the actual API is not bad. It's easy to navigate. We don't have a lot more time, so I want to render the actual SVG. That will be a fundamental part. If we can get that going, I would be pretty happy to wrap the video at that point. And that happens with image. I also want to check where were my demos. I always lose them. It's annoying. Yeah, let's check image. Where is that? SVG test. I don't see that, honestly. Let me see. Demos. I believe the hello demo, the hello world. Actually, is that available here? No, not at all. That's very annoying. Okay, let's just scroll here and find the actual demo that I care about. Models, mode, demo. Okay, I believe I should go to examples. That's where I had a hello world, which has an image. Yeah. And to run an image, we need to do some changes in the runtime and install image loaders. Let's copy that. And let's go to the code editor, main, and we do that where eSVG, my app. So we create a box new here, context. That's what's happening. Let me trace these because they're a nightmare, honestly. So like this, and here I have to do that. Okay, good. Image support. Do I need to import extras? Nope. And UI include image. I can just do that, I guess. In the app, central panel. Why is my... Wait, do I have a syntax error here? No, I don't. Whatever. Let me fix that. Include image. Ferries, I'll just expect it to be... sorry. Expect it to be right in this directory. Okay. So, besides that, we need to include a feature. I'm guessing cargo tomo. Where are the folders? Screenshot. Dump a screenshot default. Okay. Egui extras. There we go. Let me go to the cargo tomo file. Egui extras. So I have to add them somewhere in here. Image support. Okay. Can we build now? Will it allow me to build? Error. Okay. Wait, I have an error here somewhere. Specify it without providing a local path version or workspace dependency to use. Yeah, that's absolutely true. So let's just add it first. Mm-hmm. Let me see. Where is it? Okay. Let's move the image support comment up a bit. Okay. Here we want version, features, image. Was that the feature I need? Default and image. Okay. Well, I don't think I need all features. So I'll just leave image. If it works, great. It's built. Can we build successfully? Cannot find the file specified. Great. Actually not great. This, I do need something to include an image at runtime. But that's fine. That's absolutely fine. Let's do it like this for now, and we'll see how it goes. Mm, For that, I'll just download. No, let's export my actual SVG, which I'm using for the design demo, at least. I'll rename it to example and copy it. Let's try here. I'm not sure if it expects current working directory, or I'll just experiment because it will be faster this way. Mm-hmm. Can I move from here? Well, I prefer to do that like this. Just move example to source. I can move it to assets as well, but doesn't matter. It's just test SVG after all. Okay, we built. Can we run? Kinda. We have some error thing, whatever it is, because it doesn't show our actual SVG. Well, why is that? Is it because it's an SVG or some other reason? How can I test? Well, I can download the PNG image they are using. It's called Ferris in creates Egui assets Ferris. Let me see. Creates Egui assets Ferris. Actually, is there any chance I have it? I had an assets directory. I don't. Okay. Well, let's download the raw file and copy it. I will paste it exactly at the same place and try to replace it. Let's see if that will work. I just want to troubleshoot because I don't get an error. Okay, that works. So something with the SVG loader is not happening. Rasterizing. That's okay. I like it. Let me see now. Why is the SVG not working? Interesting. First of all, let me check the actual SVG. If I go to my directory, okay, works. It's fine. I need to check now the image folders. Let me see the code. Include image. That should be fine. Let's check the main. Install image loaders. Do I need to do anything extra here though? Maybe I need to also include default here. Like it was in the crate for the SVG loader capabilities. Let's check cargo run. Not so. So what else do I need to do in order to load this? I could... Let me try to troubleshoot with the documentation a little bit. First, let's check the macro. Include image. Include an image in the binary. Well, that's interesting, but let's just use the normal image widget or whatever. We have a function, UI image. There we go. Yeah, let's use that. I will go back to app example dot svg. Well, we have exactly that, except we want source example dot. Let's do Ferris first, because that was sort of working. By the way, that might not work. It might expect an absolute path, which is fine. I'll give it an absolute path. Yeah, let's do an absolute path. Or not. Let's check if it will. All right. Absolute path it is. I'll just copy it so that it's not wrong. It's quite straightforward. Change the forward slashes. Great. I don't know if they normalize paths and how they do it on Windows. Error loading file. Okay. So we can't load Ferris at this point. What does this macro do exactly? Include image is often the most ergonomic, and the path will be resolved at compile time and embedded in the binary. When using file URL, on the other hand, you need to make sure the files can be found on the right spot at runtime. Okay, I am okay with that. Absolutely. Except, I don't see. Why is that not running in that case? I get the error message for a very short time, and I don't seem to get it in the console, which is annoying. Do I need to run with some debug on or something like that? Let me see. Environment walker init. Not sure. No matching bytes loader. Either you need to call context include bytes or install some more bytes loaders using Egui extras. Okay. Okay. It cannot load the PNG this way. The good thing is I don't want to load the PNG. let's just see if I get the same error with example SVG. Hmm. Well, let's try to look it up with AI. What folder is needed so that I can load an SVG like this? Should be able to look this up in the documentation easily. No, that's that's absolutely not true. Um, yeah, it's hallucinating for some textures or whatever. Egui extras. Ah, that's useful. You can also use from SVG bytes. That's useful because I will need it. Features SVG. Let's start by adding features SVG in Egui extras. I will remove default at some point as well. Mhm. Wow, we're getting quite a lot of dependencies for the SVG. Not that many. Tiny Skia and ePaint, USVG. Let's see how it does. Mhm. I am guessing if I, let me check. If I do the previous call, will it work now that I have, yeah, it does work. So this macro does something different, which I'm not aware of, but wow. And it keeps it rasterized with vector sizes. That's great. So I'll be able to actually zoom in, zoom out, hopefully. Okay. Well, that's a good start. Now, I have a couple of things I need to do. First of all, this is currently my actual SVG is loaded with a very basic macro, which I don't understand how it works. And it includes it in the binary, which I don't want. So let's see if we can do retained image from SVG file. It parses and rasterizes the SVG internally. It uses USVG. You can also use from SVG bytes. Okay. Well, let's try that. It's I will comment this because it is a working example of an SVG. And I'll move that to the top. And let's go back to retained image. There we go. Fix the white space of it, source example. We can rasterize the target size. I like that because I can rasterize it to something like 4x and not resize it as a image show. That's fine. Will that work? That's interesting. Probably not. UI not found in this scope. Um, no retained image in the root. Yeah, that's probably hallucination. Obviously. I can check Egui extras. Yeah, Egui extras doesn't include that. Absolutely. Okay. File. Let's try this example. It's some URL from HTTP. Okay, it's not available. Let's do placeholder image, placeholder go or whatever. Good. Let's try to render that. I'm interested if it will work from HTTP. UI image, and then just pass a URL from HTTP. That's quite a lot to implement. Nice that they have it. Not that I'll use it, but I'm just interested. Why is UI not in the scope? What do you mean? Oh, I need to uncomment my central panel and actually comment UI image like this and move that into it. Okay. I hate Windows Terminal sometimes. It's very annoying. Yeah, Egui extras retained image is not something that exists, of course. No matching bytes folder. That's interesting because the example here shows clearly handle caching image data, sample textures. So calling this in immediate mode safe. And if I just try to load it with the file path, it fails. I'm interested why that is. Because the problem is that obviously I cannot just source example SVG. I cannot just load it and include it in the binary. In reality, the user will load the file path and then we have to open his SVG image. I'm just wondering why is there such a difference here? It's often the most ergonomic. What does it do? A wrapper over include bytes provides an image source which can be used indirectly in UI image. Image source is URL texture bytes. How to load an image. Mhm. Right spotted runtime. That's interesting. You can load it from an existing texture. Okay, whatever. I don't want to waste any more time because the video got quite long. I want to focus on eSVG a bit. So realistically, we are on track to build something quite nice. Let me show the SVG again. I was able to create the shell, the main structure with some pre-built widgets of our design we're aiming to build. We have state, some state. We load an SVG, although not at runtime, but we'll get that working. If it can rasterize and display it, it's only a matter of time. I would also want to have zoom in, zoom out with scroll and maybe controls here. And we have to implement the actual top panel and bottom panel. But we are on the right track. And so far, the API is, what is my opinion? So let's compare it with iced, for example. This is immediate mode. Iced is retained mode. In terms of state management, Iced is one of the best libraries I've ever seen. It's very clean. The Elm architecture is amazing. This is probably even better because you don't need to manage state. You just manage a couple of variables and the state is managed by itself because it's immediate mode. In terms of syntax and consistency, Iced was better so far. I'm hitting a few issues here. For example, this with image and a couple of inconsistencies between the documentation and what we were able to do here when I was configuring the panels. Yet, this is still a very minimal and nice, simple UI library, which I very much like. And I think it will be very suitable and enjoyable to write this app and probably any simple small application in it. Where you could hit issues with it in terms of performance, I think, because it's immediate mode, is if you're trying to render like so many items without doing anything smart to virtualize the rendering or something like that, or do custom render. For example, if you're trying to do some data grid with 1 million rows or something like that, you will need to implement something smart about that. And honestly, in retained mode, I don't know if you will be that much better if you don't implement it well. So there's no point really talking about retained versus immediate mode here. You can read so many articles about that. In terms of API, clearly this is a very good option. Comparing it with Iced is a high bar because Iced has an amazing API. This has a lot richer system of pre-built widgets. Absolutely has. And the extras and all of these examples are just great. It's very rich. I am very impressed by that. Also, compared to Iced, I'm seeing a lot um, memory usage is lower, which is expected. Iced has to manage state, so a simple small app will have, um, of course, a little bit higher memory usage compared to CPU usage here because we're dealing with immediate mode. So overall, I think so far my impressions are that Egui is a very nice immediate mode framework to build graphic user interfaces with Rust. I would absolutely recommend it as my impressions so far are great. Keep in mind, when we compare this to other UI solutions like DRM GUI, this is so much simpler and easier to start with that it's not even comparable in any way. And the Rust ecosystem is great in that. So overall, if you want to build immediate mode graphic user interfaces just for simple apps, I think this is a very good choice. And this app I would actually want to build with you in a couple of coding sessions. So I will continue building it in a couple of coding sessions that are to come. I think we can get this working and exactly as we have it in the design, judging by the capabilities of Egui. Although I haven't got to specifics about styling yet, I see that I can basically build a custom widget and style everything. So I'm optimistic we'll be able to implement everything. I also try to make this functional with the eSVG library I have for optimization. So we're going to build a fully functional app here, and I'll try to focus on performance and make it as good as possible in terms of rendering the SVG, resizing, and zoom in out. I want it to have I want to have it very responsive and nice, so that it's easy to use. We'll see how that will happen. We will probably need to implement multi-threading for exporting, opening files. We'll need to figure out how to do zoom in out with interactions and build these toggle switches as a custom widget. So that will be there will be a couple of interesting coding sessions in which we'll explore Egui in depth. And in the end, we'll have a functional app. So I'm quite excited about that. And it's getting to be quite a long video. So with that, I'll wrap right here. If you want to get notified when I do another one of these videos, don't forget to subscribe. And as always, take care.